Hey everybody, how's it going? Today we're going to take a look at this broken MacBook. This is an A1278. This thing is older than the Crystal in Final Fantasy. This is an old computer, and we're going to see if we can figure out what's wrong with it and make it work again. How about that? So let's see. What can we do here? So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to plug it in, and we're going to see how much power it takes here. I'm going to get my multimeter software on the screen. We are going to turn this power supply on and see what it takes. And it looks like it's taking 170 milliamps. That's a bit high for a machine that's not turning on. So I'm going to take the board out of the case, and we're going to go through it step by step and see if we can figure out what's wrong with this computer. I actually may be able to figure out what's wrong with it without taking it out of the case, so let's do that. So we're going to go through our power rails. Now, one thing you may notice is that there's no green light on the charger, right? So you don't have a green light in the charger. Now, the power rail that's necessary to have a green light on the charger, let's see if you guys remember, because it's been a while since I've done a board repair stream. I've noticed after about 7 years of doing the same type of video that I got really tired of doing board repair videos, so I've stopped doing them for that, among many other reasons. But so I haven't really been keeping up to date with them. But let's see if anybody in the audience remembers. All right, you need the one-wire circuit. Very good. So the one-wire circuit is going to be necessary in order for you to get a light on the charger. Now, let's see if we can figure out what's required for the one-wire circuit to work. So what do you mean when Lewis says the one-wire circuit? What is the one-wire circuit? That's a great question. So let's go over it for those of you that haven't been around in a while, haven't seen a board repair video before. So this is the DC power jack on a MacBook. You got 3 lines. You got 18 volts over here. You got ground over here. You have adapter sense. Adapter sense is going to be what's responsible for sensing the adapter. Now, adapter sense is going to be what speaks to the computer to tell it, hey, I'm a charger, turn on. Now, you have adapter sense over here. That's going to be a 3-volt data line. See, it's going to be pulled up by this voltage over here, which comes from PP342, so that's 3.42 volts. That's a 3-volt data line. Now, that 3-volt data line is right next to an 18-volt power line. And let's say someone is drunk. They're like, well, I need to plug in my MacBook so I could troll Lewis's YouTube comment section. And they're like, they're just kind of doing this with it. And it's like, there. You may not be plugging it in properly. The 18 volts may actually shoot in to where the 3-volt data line is. Now, this adapter sense line is going to talk to this chip U6900. U6900 is going to have these pins here, ext and int, external outside the computer charger, int inside the computer. And that is going to go over to the SMC. Now, the SMC is going to be where this little sys one-wire data line is over here, and we're just going to find that on the schematic. Here we go. See if Paul Daniels is soft. There we go. Paul Daniels' software will bring it me there. Hit the next. Okay, so this is the system management controller. You can see this is where it goes in. This is the SMC. Now, if you send 18 volts to the SMC, you will kill that chip. So what this does over here, it's kind of like a bodyguard. You know, it's kind of like a bouncer at a bar. It says, okay, are you 3 volts coming in? Sure, you're allowed to go over to the SMC. Come on down. And it'll take that 3 volts and it'll send it over that 3-volt data line over the SMC just fine. Are you 18 volts of DC? No, you're stopping right over here. We're not going to let you go to the SMC and destroy it. This one-wire circuit works when this chip is getting its input voltage, which is SMC BC ACOK _ VCC. It's going to get that input voltage from a logic gate. And this logic gate over here is U6901. What this does is when SMC BC ACOK is present, it is then going to take PP342 _ G3 hot and send it out here. So this, when it has its input at A and B, when you have an input at A and B, it will send the output out the Y. So when you have A and B, both present, you'll get your output out the Y. This is actually kind of shaped like a penis, so you can kind of think of it like that. So it's going to shoot out this way. Now, this is the power line that needs to be present. PP3V42_ G3 hot. And it also needs SMC BC ACOK VCC. Where does SMC BC ACOK VCC come from? And that is a great question that we're going to answer right now. So I'm going to go back to the schematic and the board view being on the screen at the same time. We are going to hit schematic and board view button right here. And SMC BC ACOK is going to come from, looks like right over here, our U7000 chip. U7000 pin 14. Now, I've gone over this, and it's actually in my guide. I have a guide that is in all my board repair videos. There'll be this long 150-slide thing that explains how you get a green light and the sequence for these computers. And in this machine, you get charger AC in, when you get charger AC in and charger DC in on this chip, it shoots out charger ACOK. Charger ACOK actually becomes SMC BC ACOK later in the schematic, and that allows the one-wire circuit to work. Now, if we were to try and see if PP3V42_ G3 hot is present, because that's the power circuit, that is the power line that is necessary for us to have this chip send power over to this chip, which allows the one-wire line to speak with the charger. Let's see, we need that to be present, and it may not be there. So let's see. So I'm going to turn my multimeter on, and we're going to try and see if we can find where we have PP3V42_ G3 hot on the board. So that power rail is on, let's see, yeah, pin 5 of U6901. U6901 pin 5. But that's on the other side of the board. I don't want to take the board out. So maybe there'll be something on this side of the board we can find it. Here we go. Take a look. L6995 pin 2. So we go to L6995 pin 2. It's right over there. Now we're going to get our multimeter on the screen. You can see it's taking 160 milliamps and not turning on, which is interesting. All right, so we have 0 volts. Wait, never mind. Here we go. 3.4, 3.4, 3.5 actually. That's interesting. That's a little bit overshoot, but I'm not too concerned about it overshooting. So we got 3.5 volts instead of 3.42. Now what we're going to do over here is let's just continue down the line. So SMC BC ACOK is going to be needed, right? And we're going to find that on pin 14 of the ISL 6259, otherwise known as U7000 here. And let's see if that is there. So I am going to go into the microscope, and we are going to measure that. I'm going to turn on my microscope camera so that you can all see this. All right, we plug this in. Bada bing. We wait for the camera to turn on. We wait for the camera to turn on. And the camera's turned on. All right, are you guys excited? Because I'm excited. I can't wait to share with you how we fix this computer. Because if I share with you how we fix this computer, maybe you'll be able to fix other computers. Using the knowledge that you learned here. We can have less e-waste, we can have more items, more people, have more stuff, with spending less money, and the world can be a place filled with MacBook. Never mind. Okay, so pin 14 is going to be over here. And as you can see, we don't have the signal coming out of it. Now, what I said is that we need to have charger AC in, which is going to be around pin 4 or so. That's not here. Now, one of the obvious things that you probably know right now is that this chip has a giant hole right in the center of it. Yeah, that's no good. And this is most likely why the machine is taking 140 milliamps for no reason, because this chip has a giant hole in it. So I am going to postpone any further measurements. I am not going to be doing any further measurements here. Because it doesn't make sense to do any further measurements. It's very obvious this chip is dead. Another way you could tell, even if the chip were not blown up, please, please don't call me daddy. That is incredibly strange, and that sets a really weird relationship between myself and the audience when they call me that. So that's kind of strange over there. I would suggest against that. So let's just pretend that didn't happen, okay? All right, we're going to pretend that didn't happen. And that'll be that. All right, so one of the ways you could tell, even if there was no hole in the chip, let's see if you guys can guess. I'm going to turn the light up just a little bit over here, and I want to see if you could give me another way that you could tell that this chip was bad, even if that hole wasn't in the top of the chip. Let's see if any of you know. Anybody know? Anybody here? Anybody want to guess? Anybody at all? Is there anybody out there? Is there anybody out there? That pad? Yes and no. Yes and no. What's the better way? The joint. Yes, the joint. Good answer, Eli. Okay, so if you go over here, you'll see that the third one from the bottom, this solder joint over here is destroyed. This like solder ball is kind of exploding outwards. This is your sign that this chip is bad. And remember, we don't have a magic machine that we put over the computer that when we go do this and go, that then tells us what's wrong with it. This is investigative diagnostic repair work. And the way that you figure it out is you take every single hint that you have, every hint a customer gives you, every hint that the board tells you, anything that looks out of place, you're going to use that to trace and figure out what's wrong with this board. Because if you're not able to do that, then you're going to be stuck, I don't know, figuring out which one of the thousands of components on here is the one that's bad, making thousands of measurements. That's hell on earth, and that's not economically viable. What's economically viable is to use the hints that are in front of you to guide your decision making. So, what we're going to do over here is we are going to remove this chip from the board. The battery is unplugged from the machine. We are going to take this quick 861 hot air station that I've had here for years, that I haven't replaced the heating element in, that I probably should at some point, but it hasn't ever died on me. And we are going to use this to replace this chip. Now, one thing that is important, because many people tell me, Lewis, you already have right to repair. Why do you people advocate for right to repair? Clearly you can fix this because you're doing it right now with the stuff that's right in front of you. That's a great question. That's a great question, and we shouldn't pick on people that ask that question because they want to learn what it is we're talking about. Now, this chip that I'm going to replace here is an Intersil ISL6259. This is not a chip that I can buy if I ask Intersil. Yet it still makes its way out there into the market in ways that I'm not really sure my suppliers would be excited to discuss if I were to discuss in a public YouTube video. But with newer machines, they use chips like the ISL9240 that you can't find anywhere. And that means that when this happens, instead of being able to replace this one chip to restore functionality to this lovely little MacBook here and give it a happy owner, that you are then forced to go to the Apple Store and pay them the $1,500 that they will charge for a board repair on some of those newer models. And that is something that is cost prohibitive to many customers. In addition to it being cost prohibitive, in new machines, the solid-state drive is soldered to the motherboard. Meaning that if you are not able to fix the board, the customer loses all of their data that was not backed up. So if you did your last backup yesterday, and then you had the best writing session of your life where you came up with this amazing idea and you wrote this beautiful thing and you made this, you had this best recording session ever and you were just about to back it up you're screwed. All of your stuff is gone. And above all, obviously of interest to myself and to many of the people that I've trained to work in this industry, is that it allows people that did not follow a traditional path to success throughout life, that didn't really succeed in college and all the other traditional things that you're supposed to do to, prove that you know how to make money and you're worthy of a job. It allows them to make a living for themselves, doing something that betters people's lives, that takes e-waste out of landfills, that is rewarding to them and saves people money. All of that can be obtained when you're able to fix stuff because you can get the parts and schematics and diagrams that you need. Okay. Ta-da! Now, I kind of wonder if this has been replaced before, because usually you have a square center pad, and here it looks kind of like a cross. I'm not used to seeing that very often, so that does raise an eyebrow for me as to whether or not this has already been replaced. It's a bit of a concern for me, but we're gonna donating to the OWI Test Foundation. You know what? I didn't do an OWI test here. I've learned after 5 or 6 years that when a chip has a hole in it, that I am not going to take my finger and put it on the chip. That's a bad idea. It's a losing proposition. So we're not going to do that. Also, everybody note that Terrible Fire, one of my first YouTube subscribers ever to this channel, is watching on Twitch instead of YouTube. Alright, all you gotta do is put the chip on there, push down. Now, once I've pushed down, it will get into place. We're gonna take away the excess solder there. The cross marks the treasure, says Mario. Indeed. I can't read you using a mask and Schmuckmac TV. I have issue computer not starting sparks when try how repair. Yeah, that's a car no go when hit pedal make big explosion how fix. I'm sorry, man. I don't know what that means. This is annoying. And we have a V over here that could use a little bit of love. A little bit of scraping is all we need on the Vias that don't look as nice as they should. This looks like it may have had some liquid damage that was cleaned, and I'm saying that because it's these holes are kind of, they're not golden colored anymore or even brown, but they have this reddish tint to them that I would expect to see after a bad bout of liquid damage. And we do that. All right. Now we're going to do a few basic checks around here before we turn this back on. I'm just kind of curious to see if anything is shorted to ground around the chip, so we're going to turn the multimeter on. I'm going to put this in diode mode. Diode mode gives me a faster reading. We're just going to go around the chip here. How fun would it be to rebuild a MacBook with only components and wires? No boards or case, would it be possible? That sounds like a complete, giant waste of time, resources, and highly miserable. Right, so charger DC in is not shorted to ground. Let's see, are the current sensing side shorted to ground? No. Current sense is not shorted to ground. Damn it. Come on, stay. 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 How'd they call the CEO of Framework go? I learned something from it, and I uploaded a video on the main channel with some of what I learned. How fun would it be to, I answered that one. Okay, so we don't have any short to ground over here. So next up is, go through each pin. Nothing there, nothing shorted. Nothing shorted. Nothing shorted. Well, that's shorted, but that is, I believe that's ground. Wait a sec. Charger CSIP. Well, charger CSIP should not be shorted to ground. C7021? Is C7021 shorted to ground? So charger CSIP, this is the pin that beeps. Pin 28. Pin 28. And the only path to ground I could see here is C7021, which goes to ground. And that's this. See you later, Q's Tech Service. Hope a good day for you and your family. Okay. So over here, Okay, you're not shorted, but you were just a minute ago. Now you're not shorted, but you were shorted a minute ago. Okay, I give up. I'm gonna plug it in and see if it explodes. What do you all think? Good idea? I feel like I'm getting trolled at this point. Damn magnet on the fan is keeping it from spinning. Okay, it tried. I think it tried to spin, but then stopped. Here we go, an amp. Okay, we got a spinning fan over here. This is beautiful. Let's unplug this thing, because that's going to put it to sleep. We got a spinning fan. That's usually a sign that we're good to go, right? Now, next thing is to see if it works with the battery plugged in. Because remember, this charges the battery. So if the battery does not function, if it doesn't function when I plug in the battery, that means that we may have a bad battery or the circuit on the board is still screwed. So I'm going to plug the battery in. Okay. Now, it should take more than that 1 amp because it's going to charge the battery. It's taking an amp, but that's not good enough. We want to see that this charges a battery. 1.1. It's still stuck at an amp. Okay, so perhaps this is a bad battery. Or a full battery. Bad battery or full battery? What are your bets? Okay, it just turned on and turned off. It turned on and turned off again. Okay, come on. Also, it sounds like the DVD drive thinks it has something in it. Okay, it's randomly turning on and turning off. That's beautiful. Why are you doing that? You stopped that? Okay, it's booting. It booted. It says 0% in the battery in the top. The top right of the screen says 0% battery. So now we're going to figure out if this is a bad battery or something wrong with the board. So I'm going to walk outside, I'm going to grab a battery, and we're going to see what's wrong with it. Is this battery causing it to randomly reboot? Because it's randomly rebooting on me. Randomly rebooting may be something unrelated to the battery problem. And I'm actually seeing other things on the board that look like they may be issues here. I'm also going to unplug this DVD-ROM drive because it sounds like an alien. It can't be doing us any good. Uh-oh. Yeah, this had some previous liquid damage that was addressed somewhere else, I can tell. Yeah, you see this? See this red and this rust? You see how these vias are destroyed? Now, granted, these are not really for anything. Not vias, the pads and the pathways. This means that there was widespread liquid damage at some point that I think may have been cleaned up elsewhere, and they did an incomplete job cleaning it up, and now as a result, you have to deal with the result of a long time of liquid that... Yeah. Anyway, I unplugged the battery that was in the computer and it stopped randomly rebooting. So let's see what happens with a good battery, because this would be a rare case. I'm not used to seeing batteries cause random rebooting, but I'm not going to rule it out just yet, particularly if this machine may have had liquid damage that was improperly addressed in the past. So I'm going to walk outside. I am going to grab a battery and I'm going to plug it in. Once I find where I put this, let's see. One moment. What was I just doing? Well, something. Just doing something. Where was I? What was I doing? Okay. All right, I've grabbed a battery. We're going to plug this in. We'll see if this battery gives us anything. This is a really old computer, so these batteries are no longer original because that don't exist. For a machine that got discontinued in 2015 or 16, that was a 2000. This is a 2012 model computer. So I'm going to plug this battery in here. And we're still taking a straight amp, nothing else. Now, one of the ways that you could tell if the SMC is on and working is checking PP-Bus G3 HOTS voltage. And we are going to check just that and see, was it 12.23 or 12.56? 12.2. That means that when that other SMC died, what it did was it sent... okay, so 12.23. Let's go over this. And how, you know what? I know exactly who is going to be working on this machine right after me. So, ready, everybody? Ready? So it doesn't see another battery. Now let's go over U7000 and how this deals with the battery. So there's a data line where this will communicate with the battery. Right here. Right here. So this data line on pins 11 and 10. So this is a data line. It goes to the battery indicator LED on the side. It goes to the battery itself. It goes to the charging chip and the system management controller. So the system management controller actually speaks to U7000 on this data line. This is also the data line that the system management controller uses to speak to the battery and the battery charging chip. Now, this chip, this ISL6259, can be used to create many different voltages. And the way you tell it what to create is by pulling up or pulling down charger cell. So if you have a battery with 2 cells, it will tell it to make let's say you'll have 8.2 volts. If you have 3 cells, it'll tell it to make, maybe 12.2, 12.3 volts, something like that. Now, the SMC communicates with this, and when the SMC is working and it's on, it actually changes the voltage a little bit of this power rail U7000. And the SMC is required for the machine to see the battery, because that's the thing that communicates with the battery. Now, if PP-Bus G3 HOT is 12.23 volts, that means that this data line over here, it's not this data line is being pulled down, or the system management controller is not working. And this is 12.23 volts in this model when the SMC is not working, and it's 12.56 volts when that data line is working. So what we can do over here to get an idea as to whether or not something is pulling down the data line or if the SMC is bad is we can check, make a diode mode measurement of that actual line. So I am going to go over to these 2 little resistors that are in the corner of the board, right over here, R5280, R5281, and we are going to check. Now, typically the diode mode measurement, when there is no short to ground or things are good, is 0.443. And let's see if that's what we get on the meter. So I'm going to put the red probe on ground as usual, and the black probe is going to go on the side. And for one of them, I get 0.508. And for the second one, I get 0.515. So nothing is pulling it down and shorting it to ground. I actually prefer when that number is low, because that means that perhaps I put a bad ISL6259 on there that's shorting it to ground, or perhaps there's corrosion on the board that's shorting it to ground. When the number is high, that means there's a low voltage drop there. When there's a low voltage drop, that tends to mean that the SMC itself is bad. This is a chip that has 96 tiny solder balls on it that you have to grab off of a donor board because I can't replace it. So that chip is sold. It's commonly sold everywhere, but it has firmware on it. And that firmware is firmware that I can't get from Apple. And if I try to read the firmware off of that chip, it's going to erase itself. So this needs a new SMC, a replacement, which means you have to go through your donor pile collection and find one that has a good SMC on it. How do you know if it's good? Well, you waste time reballing it, you solder it on, and then you see if it works. That's how you tell. And that is I'm going to be introducing you all to my good friend and coworker here. His name is Paul. That's about it for today. That's a video. As always, I hope you learned something. I'll see you all in the next video. I have a MacBook Air. Well, I used to have. Took it to the range and got some good groupings at 800 meters. Waiting for Apple to fix the problem I had afterwards. Ah, so you shot at it. Well, best of luck with that. Paul's probably going to want to do that to me after I give them this board. But, oh, man. Yeah, that's going to be interesting. You know what? I'll stick around and talk to you all for a few minutes after I'm done. I'm going to put the battery back. I ended the recording. Can you please make sound in your videos louder? Which video? I mean, this is already almost to the max, so I don't think that it makes sense for me to make this louder. Yeah, like, I have a limiter. I don't think I can make this louder. Also, yes, Streamlabs sucks, but I don't have an alternative. Let's see. I think it's good enough. Let's see. Test. I don't know. I could do this. You want me to test? Hello. How are you? Test 1, 2. I could do this. Test 1, 2. Hello. Ah! Listen to that distortion and limiting compression. Nobody wants that though, right? That's mean. I'm not gonna freaking deafen you all. What will the customer pay for this repair? Too much. Too much. This needs a smidge of post gain. That's all the post gain you're going to get. Like, that's literally with a... Hello! Hey, everybody, how's it going? See, like, it doesn't make any sense to make it much louder. It's literally... Vimeo Live is not working. That's because I haven't paid Vimeo in like a year. I don't use them anymore. Okay. Please do not. Ah. My God. Okay. Oh, so we have a... Every one of you has their own volume control on YouTube and the host system. Indeed. I'm not going to loudness war this video. I mean, it's just like I have a compressor, I have a limiter, I have my stuff. Fundraiser Thoughts is quiet. Yeah, but that video is in the past. I can't fix it. I could like redo it and re-upload it, but that's just going to be a waste of time. I think maybe one of the plugins didn't work. I used Vegas for that audio instead of DaVinci, and every now and then the last plugin I put on won't work, which is really annoying. I think that's what happened to that one. How you doing? Lewis is in the kitchen video. Hope you're having a good day. Hope I have a good day. Do you have any tips for dealing with depression and anxiety? I do. I have them on this channel, but I find it difficult to follow my own advice, and I have quite a bit of it at the moment. I'm likely gonna have to make a video over the next week that's going to aggravate a lot of people. we're at that point in the GoFundMe campaign where I say, so I said I was going to do a ballot initiative if I raised 6 million or close to it, and if I don't, I'm going to do normal lobbying. And I raised 13% of my goal, so we're going to do Plan B. That's going to be you know, what's really weird about this, here's the thing that's weird about it. I laid out from the very beginning that I was going to do lobbying in every state for right to repair if I didn't meet my goal, and I would go for a direct ballot initiative if I made like my goal. And I didn't. But for some reason, I feel like I'm a failure for the fact that I wasn't able to raise 6 million. And it's actually had me down over the past 2 or 3 days. I've actually, but like it shouldn't. I raised more, we've raised more money for right to repair than any organization ever has over the past 10 years for consumer electronics. That should be a victory. But for some reason, my brain is framing it as a loss. For some reason, my brain is framing it as a loss, which is really stupid. It's probably stupid. Like, what we raised is enough that I could do lobbying in every single state. I think part of it is I care too much what people think. Because there was this one person that said I would feel baited and switched if he used it for lobbying. And I remember pointing out, like, I got that comment. I don't know why I'm letting a YouTube comment piss me off as much as it is, but it actually is, and it's really stupid and dumb of me. Like, when I go to this page, let's see if I have it up here. Da-da-da-da, here we go. Read more. Read more. Yeah, you have to hit a lot of read more here. Okay. Let's see. I said let's see. If we raise the money, we do this. If we don't, it's back to the traditional method of lobbying politicians on behalf of specific bills. To be clear, if I reach my goal or earshot, I intend to have right to RPGAF retain this firm to do repair direct ballot. If I do not reach my goal, we will conduct traditional lobbying efforts to support right to repair bills in states that have introduced legislation without going for direct ballot. And like you see the bar up here, it's like there. I know that I'm not going to make it over here at this point. And the thing is that there's no way in hell that I'm making it to that point. So it doesn't, spamming won't help. No spamming. Fuck, no spam. No spam. Stop that. Fuck's sake. So like it really kind of does make sense at this point to create the strategy. I mean, to like essentially set the, like this shouldn't be a failure. This should be okay, we've raised more than any other firm has ever raised for this particular cause and this particular issue. Let's work out a strategy. It's really stupid. But I think it's part of it is that I just read that comment and it kind of, I let it get to me. I let a stupid comment get to me, so I really don't think I could give you advice on dealing with depression or anxiety. Let's see. Why are people spamming? Who's spamming? I try to avoid using Twitter. I think your mind is in this. I could have made this much type of thinking similar with stock stuff. Yeah, I think so. I also have, what's the word I'm looking for? You should engage more on Twitter. I have a tendency to say really stupid things when given the opportunity to speak on issues with the limit of 100 or 200 or 300 characters. So I avoid using Twitter very much because I know I'm eventually going to say something that's going to get me in horrible trouble. And I figure the conservative and smart thing to do would not be to do anything at all there. The things that help me the things that have always helped me with depression are to put a lot of things on my plate. But when I put a lot of things on my plate, I wind up having anxiety. And the thing that helps me with anxiety is, this. So there's usually 5 ways that anything can go. So virtually any problem, there's usually 5 ways that it can go. And typically, our brain assumes that the worst possible way it's going to go is what's going to happen. And then once that happens, you assume the next worst possible thing is going to happen. And then once that worst possible thing happens, then you assume of the next 5 things that can happen, the worst possible thing happens. I want you to think about that in reverse. How often does the best possible thing happen? How often do you think I'm going to take the hottest girl in class to prom and she asks you out before you ask her out and is excited when you say, yeah, like, how often does the best possible thing happen? Very rarely. So the likelihood of the worst possible thing happening all the time is equal to that, in my opinion. So so for me, what helps me with my anxiety is realizing that my brain always assumes that the worst possible thing of all the different options is what's going to happen. And when I want things to go my way, it's very rare that that the way that I planned it to go is going to go that way. So why is it when my brain is planning for failure that with the little anxious part of my brain, why is it when my brain is planning for failure that I assume everything's going to go that way? As a conservative stance, any human being avoiding Twitter is a good choice. We need the right to repair in India. Lewis, please help us. We need right to repair in Lewis. Please help us. Are you copying and pasting? I'm not. I don't live in India. Have you ever taken an autism spectrum test? I got asked a bunch of questions from a therapist a while back. And the problem with that was they're dumb. They're like those questions that they ask in those stupid Myers-Briggs personality tests. Like, when you're at a party, do you feel shy or do you feel outgoing? And my answer is not shy or outgoing. My answer is, am I surrounded by people that I like, care about, or find interesting, or am I surrounded by people that I have no interest in that I think are stupid? Every question that I got asked as part of the Asperger's test, I had a counter question for the therapist who was giving it. So I have no way of. So I thought that the entire concept of that test, like I actually thought that Asperger's made sense as something to have as a personality disorder or a condition or anything like that. And then once I found out the way that they gauge whether or not you have it is through those questions, that's when I thought this entire system is bullshit. Because every one of those questions has a conditional. You know, with other issues, it's, do you have difficulty breathing? Yes or no. Do you have, but it's not, but most of the questions that are part of the autism spectrum test, or at least the Asperger's test, are very conditional, and they really do depend on a number of different things. I would almost probably be better off telling whether or not someone has Asperger's just based on their behavior in Discord or something than answers to those questions. Oh my God, chat is getting spam like crazy. Okay. All right. I don't see much in the chat that makes sense anymore. So I'll talk to you all later. It's fun having you all here. Got to make time to do this more often with all of you. How's my 5G chipping? Ooh, I got my next shot up on May 28th. I'm so excited. So I have my next shot in, 2.5 weeks. 2.5 weeks I got my next shot. And I am excited. I'm excited. I can't wait to get my 5G. I'm gonna get my 5G shot. Thank you. I got my second COVID a few weeks ago. Cell reception has never been better, and I got a free subscription to MS Office 365. I can't help you in India. Call Fauci. There's the LG V60. The LG V60 is annoying. This phone is gigantic. And the fingerprint sensor that built into the screen thing sucks. Okay, I gotta go. See y'all later.